That's number one. You kind of recently
painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length, and the other. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Real Health with Brandi and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor. This is Brandi Rashidian, my other half, and the brain. So I've got the knowledge. She's got the brain, if that makes sense.
Completely to me.
But you can be knowledgeable and intelligent. I'll be knowledgeable, you be intelligent.
That sounds great. I'll do my best.
And, knowledge doesn't mean you necessarily can apply that knowledge. So it takes intelligence to apply the knowledge, which is what Brandi's going to help us do. Real Health Podcast is where we read articles and we summarize them for you. And we tell you what they say and what they mean and how you can implement them, apply them to your life. And the purpose and our goal for us doing all this is so that we can teach you how to feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. So how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Young and strong and...
I'm feeling a little sore. I had a very hard legs workout yesterday. But it was great. So now I'm paying the price today.
I had my legs workout Saturday, and I just stopped being... I still feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense.
I always say it hurts so good. It's one of my favorite feelings, actually.
Right.
I don't mind a little discomfort if I know that it's sandwiched, that we have results and success mixed in there. So
yeah, absolutely. I always say if what you're doing is easy for you, then it's not going to change anything.
Right.
Change is difficult. And so there's something different. They might have noticed we're sitting in different seats.
I know. I was hoping he wouldn't mix up who we were.
Right.
Because you get to pronounce all the really big words I struggle with.
Okay. That's right. I can do that. So we can jump right in and get started. I think we're on episode 30-something. By the way, somebody mentioned us as one of their top 3 choices for podcasts in January.
Wow.
On LinkedIn. So that was excellent. We appreciate that very much.
That's exciting.
It was Sean James on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Sean.
Look him up and support his podcast, please. That was really nice of him. And so let's get started. So our first article is one we actually carried away from last week. And this is an article by CNN. It says prescriptions for ADHD medications jumped by more than 1 million during the pandemic. 1 million drugs.
That's, I find, very interesting.
Well, it says prescriptions for medications used to treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, including stimulants, increased significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially among young adults and women, according to a new study. There were about 5.9 million new prescriptions for stimulants in the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, about 700,000 more than in the 2 years before the pandemic started, a 14% spike. According to the study published, of course, on Wednesday in the Journal of American Medical Association Psychiatry. New prescriptions for other ADHD medications jumped 32% to nearly 1.4 million prescriptions between April 2020 and March 2022, compared with just over 1 million prescriptions between April 2018 and March of 2020. So it's a 2-year span, over 1 million more. Prescriptions for other behavioral health needs, including antidepressants, benzodiazepines, and buprenorphine for opioid use disorder did not change significantly in that time frame.
So,
what do you think is going on?
well, I don't know, because I know sometimes when there's large increases, it's because there's been a reclassification of a diagnosis. And so, like at one point, they said, oh, everything is going down. There's not nearly as many cases of autism, or, hey, it's increased. But then we found out that there was a reclassification, and they would add other diagnoses in and combine them under one, or they would extrapolate. So when they do that, it changes those numbers, and they don't always give us the background to or context in that. I find it very surprising that in a time where we shut down and people are really away from other people that we see such an increase in this? I mean, is it that we were by ourselves and we started noticing?
So it's not the school age people either, which is what's
I
interesting.
know,
It's
which is
young
very
adults.
fascinating.
Because I was thinking, okay, if these are kids who have to sit in front of a computer now and do Zoom
Right.
meetings instead of school, it makes sense that it's hard for them to pay
Yeah,
attention.
maybe parents saw
Drug them
this.
up so they'll pay attention more, but that's not the case. It's ladies who are young adults.
Yeah, and that I find very interesting as well. Why that particular group? So,
I did notice a lot of our patients who are on Adderall, and the article mentions Adderall, so we can say that, said there's been a shortage and they've been having to do other prescriptions. It says the
interesting.
largest annual increase in 2021 were among women in their 20s and 30s. The article says the FDA announced a shortage of Adderall, a common stimulant used to treat ADHD, in October of 2022. So it's been going on for a very long time. In August, 2023. In August, federal agencies called on drug makers to boost manufacturing and on healthcare providers to closely monitor prescribing practices to help ease the shortage. So, Adderall and a lot of the drugs they use for ADHD are stimulants.
Correct.
And you go, well, why are you stimulating or overstimulating a hyperactive person?
Correct. What's funny is that question doesn't occur to as many people as you would think. There are so many people that don't even think that that's a fascinating find,
Well,
right?
I've asked doctors, and I say, because I know the answer, and I'll tell you in a minute. But I've asked doctors, so you take a child who's hyperactive and you give him a stimulant and he calms down, and they always say because their bodies work backwards. Some people calm down when you stimulate them, and some people get hyperactive when
There
you
has to
stimulate.
be a reason.
Because I tell you, I bet if I took a stimulant, I'd be bouncing off the walls.
Same.
It's speed, right? And that was a popular drug
Yeah.
in the 80s
Yeah.
when we were growing up. People would take speed and get addicted to it, and they would, it would help them pass their final exams and study more, and they would clean the house all through the night.
Oh, yeah.
And, they wouldn't sleep. So, you want to know how it works?
I would love to.
Okay. So, the brain requires stimulation from the body. That stimulation is typically called proprioception, which is joint position, sense of joint position. So right now, nobody has to look down at their knees to tell me if their knees are bent or straight. You know they're bent or they're straight because your knee constantly talks to your brain. Well, your brain needs to constantly receive information. If that information stops, and the brain is not receiving proper information from your body, the brain will tell the body to move because movement increases the stimulation to the brain. So these children or these adults who are hyperactive based on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it's because their brain is not receiving enough stimulation from their body at rest. So they have to keep moving it to stimulate their brain. Something is blocking flow of neurologic input to the brain. Everyone thinks neurologic input is one way. It just goes from the brain to the rest of the body. It's a two-way street. Everything has to come in also. Sight,
Right.
sound, taste, smell, touch. All these things are senses that the body needs to receive. Nerves communicate that
Right.
to the brain. If there's something blocking that input to the brain, then the brain says, let's move so we can be at peace. And so that's why a child who's hyperactive, you put them in the back of the classroom, say, just pace back and forth, and they'll be able to pay attention because their brain is now stimulated the same amount that my brain is stimulated just by sitting still. So when you give them a stimulant, it stimulates their nervous system. And now they don't have to move to receive the same stimulation. They are not backwards,
Right.
like the doctors say.
And they're not trying to be disruptive. They're not trying to, it's one of those things they physiologically cannot, they cannot help. One strategy that we usually recommend, especially for school age kids, is to put a like a band around TheraBand around their desk legs, and then when they're in class sitting at their desk, they can use that. They can flick it, they can push down on it, create some pressure, and it allows for them to sit but still fidget with
Yeah.
something so that they can increase that proprioceptive input.
That's good.
We
And
had a
they're natural stimulants, herbal
oh
stuff and
oh
so on.
absolutely.
Caffeine is a stimulant.
We have a lot of patients that have chosen not to go on one of the more common ADD and ADHD prescriptions, mostly because they were aware that something like one of the drugs mentioned in these articles, it changes the brain itself. So there
It has psychotropic effects on the brain.
Yes, so much so that historically, there are branches of the government that would not even allow somebody who's been on some of those medications for a certain amount of time, like 10 years, would not allow them to actually join the military because they wouldn't consider it safe for them to have guns and whatnot.
Carry firearms. Yeah.
So there are long-term repercussions to the brain itself being on these medications. And so we always recommend not going into that lightly. Are there things that patients can do that can help open up that pathway of information from the brain to the rest of the body? First and foremost, that's super important.
That's
and
the
then
thing.
supplements.
No one bothers to ask, why is there a blockage? Why is their brain not receiving the same amount
Yeah.
of stimulation from their body as the average person? So that blockage could be, listen, I'm a chiropractor, so to me everything is solved by chiropractic, and that's okay. And you can make fun of me for that, but I believe the first thing you should do is check the upper neck and make sure there isn't a misalignment at the very
100%.
top, because the spinal cord is really thick at the top. It gets narrower and narrower as it goes down the spine. As nerves branch off that spinal cord, there's less spinal cord in the middle. At the very bottom, you can have a big misalignment and you won't press on the spinal cord because it's barely there. There's just a shred of nerves down there. But at the top, it's thick. And so the opening where the first vertebra is and the opening to the skull, there isn't a lot of room there. As the brainstem comes down, becomes the spinal cord, even as tiny little misalignment, which can occur during the birthing process,
Yes.
can affect communication. It's not enough for you to notice until the ADHD symptoms show up. And when we take an x-ray through the mouth from the side, we make measurements and see that misalignment,
Yes.
correct it, and it's a very gentle low force adjustment, and re-x-ray to see if it was balanced. Some of these children actually can pay attention much better
Oh, it's
and
amazing.
stop being ADHD.
Yeah, there was a doctor that we had an opportunity to hear speak, and we got to interact with him quite a bit on the topic of ADD and ADHD. He was one of the leading experts. I love how he described an ADD and ADHD brain, and I think when patients hear this description, it makes them feel a lot better because it almost feels like you can't get help, or that somebody who has ADD or ADHD doesn't have the intelligence level, or and that's not the case at all. So he described ADD and ADHD as a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes, which every single person we've met who has ADD and ADHD, I would 100% agree with that description.
They fly off the road.
That's right. So they're going a million miles a minute. They just don't have the braking system to be able to stop certain behaviors.
So would you rather slow down that brain, or would you rather increase the strength of the brakes?
Yeah, 100%. So, just know if that's something that you're struggling with, and if you think, as we do, where you need to be super cautious on what you're putting into your body, but also a child's body who's still in the stages of development, you want to make sure to limit those kinds of medications as much as possible if you can find an alternative. So that you're not interfering with that normal development process, because the brain is still developing as well. And so we need to have as little interference in that process as possible. Another thing that we found, just for you to do research on, is a lot of times certain deficiencies in the body in children can also mimic ADD and ADHD symptoms.
It could be a mineral deficiency.
Yeah, often mineral deficiencies in children can mimic those symptoms. So sometimes as little as making sure they're getting the right minerals can reduce those overall symptoms tremendously. Children are supposed to bounce off the walls to a certain degree. They're supposed to be active. They're supposed to run. They're
And they're
supposed
supposed to eat their vegetables.
Yeah, well,
That's the source of minerals. Vegetables grow out of the ground, and they bring their minerals that you're supposed to eat.
considering
So,
the ground hasn't been
depleted.
depleted
I
of those
understand.
minerals.
But you know what? I don't think I've ever met a child that had a deficiency of sugar. Have you?
Nope.
Even the ones who don't eat a lot of sugar, I don't think they're deficient in
I
sugar.
would say you're correct there.
So maybe that's one thing they should reduce is
That would be smart.
processed carbs and sugars, high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff. Yeah.
But just know there's a lot of things you can be
The
doing.
doctor you were talking about is medical doctor, a professor at the Harvard Medical School, Ned Hallowell,
Yeah.
who said that analogy about Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes.
Yeah.
Moving on. USA Today reported, I'm going to spend less than a minute on this. article.
Perfect.
USA Today reported there's a blood donations are dangerously at dangerously low levels. Red Cross says the impact could be dire. And the article goes on and talks about all the reasons why there's a shortage. And I don't know, they're not doing anything about it. So that kind of bothers me. I go, if the blood shortage, do you know how much money they spend advertising drugs and vaccines? And I'm not saying don't do it. Why don't they run an ad?
Right.
Run an ad. Have you ever seen an ad recently?
Not recently.
To
They
donate
used to
blood?
have them a
I
lot.
used to see them.
Mhm.
Where did they go? Do you know Travis Kelce received $20 million for promoting Pfizer's vaccine? $20 million.
That's a good amount
Now,
of money to put on
that's
one
how much his
marketing
girlfriend
campaign.
makes per minute. She's worth $1.1 billion.
That's crazy.
So 20 million is a lot of money to Travis Kelce still, but I've never heard of someone being given that much money
Right.
to promote a drug.
It's tremendous.
On TV. That's a lot of money. So they have the money, but the money's going in the wrong places. It could run an ad. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, but if you're
donate.
Yeah, go donate.
Donate. Red Cross. Look up Red Cross. There's centers all around. There's local places outside of Red Cross. Just say, where can I donate money? I mean, donate blood. Thank you.
Or money for the campaign.
Or money, and go help out. Do your part. That'd be great. And it's healthy. Actually, it's healthy to donate blood because it makes your body produce fresh blood more. So it's healthy. Everybody should donate blood like once a year.
That's a great idea.
For a healthy thing. Ladies, because of a certain thing that happens every month, they naturally lose some blood, and they say that's very, very healthy. Men don't. We don't bleed, and so we should definitely donate every month. Moving on. NBC News said FDA issues new warning about supplement containing tianeptine. Sounds like
you
a
almost
planet.
messed that one up.
I did mess that one up. Tianeptine. Everyone's going, what is that? Well, I'll tell you. The Food and Drug Administration issued a new warning late Tuesday about supplements that contain the ingredient tianeptine, commonly known as gas station heroin.
Oh my gosh, how can they even coin something?
Wow. Well,
gas
that's
station heroin.
That's what people call it.
I know, but how can they have something coined that and still have it on the market?
The product sold under the name Neptune's Fix
Okay.
and often found at gas stations, convenience stores, and online are linked to serious side effects including seizures, loss of consciousness, and death. Tianeptine is an antidepressant that is approved in some European, Asian, and Latin American countries, but not in the United States.
Okay, but let me Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Those are also some of the common side effects for a lot of medications that are actually advertised on television.
True.
Also. So I'm just saying.
True.
Okay.
But it doesn't sound so bad when they read it really fast at the end of the commercial.
It's very true. Okay.
The substance can cause side effects in the nervous system, heart, and stomach, with some effects mimicking opioid toxicity and withdrawal, according to the CDC. The product can be found illegally in the U.S. as a dietary supplement and is often marketed by retailers as a way to improve brain function and treat anxiety, depression, pain, opioid use disorder, and other conditions.
Wow.
These products may interact in life-threatening ways with other medications a consumer may be taking. The dietary supplement sold in the U.S. Dietary supplements sold in the U.S. are not approved by the FDA, nor are they reviewed by the agency for their safety and effectiveness. So the FDA in the United States refuses to look at dietary supplements, regulate them, and check for their safety. Why? Isn't the first letter food? They only deal with drugs. Why do they have food?
Well, maybe if we hired fewer tax people in the government,
Yeah,
we could hire
take
more
some of those IRS
Food and Drug
agents.
Administration people.
Our president hired how many? 80,000
I don't
IRS
know.
agents?
It was astronomical.
And trained them to carry firearms too.
Yeah, I
agency,
think it would be more used here.
The FDA said Tuesday that Neptune Resources, the marketer of Neptune's Fix, the maker of Neptune's Fix, agreed to voluntarily recall its products, which include Neptune's Fix Elixir, Neptune's Fix Extra Strength Elixir, and Neptune's Fix tablets. However, the FDA said that at least 12 states have banned the sale of this. So it's been recalled. If you see it, don't buy it. If you've been using it, stop.
And it's been recalled by the maker, but the FDA still, they don't even know if they're on the shelves, people. Okay?
Correct.
If they are, they might be right next to those illegal vaping products that aren't supposed to be on the market.
Yeah.
And all those other things we've been talking about
Yeah.
over these past, I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. Like, you can't make this up.
And this one doesn't sound like it's a company in China. The vape was coming from China. The illegal vape products were coming from China. And remember, they banned them. So the company that makes them remarketed it, changed the name, and started selling the same thing under a different name. And the U.S. allowed it to come right back in and start selling.
And it's taken a Harvard Medical School professor, associate professor, to say this is a testament to a broken system.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harvard. I think even somebody from one of our community colleges could have called that out. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because other countries, their FDA regulates supplements as well, which is why certain medications that are prescribed. So I'll give you an example. Anytime a statin is prescribed in countries outside of the U.S., like Canada, when they prescribe a statin for cholesterol, they also prescribe CoQ10. CoQ10 is a supplement, but they prescribe 200 milligrams a day because they know that the statin depletes the body of CoQ10. CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, is required for a healthy heart. So they're trying to protect the heart, but it depletes them of a substance that they need. So they're like, okay, let's give it to them. But the U.S. doctors do not prescribe that for the sole reason that the FDA doesn't regulate those, and they don't want to prescribe anything that's not regulated by the FDA. It's a very safe supplement that people can take daily.
Wow.
Talk to your doctor if you are interested in that, or if you're on a statin drug for cholesterol, do some research, talk to a pharmacist, or talk to your medical doctor. Moving on. NBC News. I like this. We're flying through these articles.
Woo!
Maybe we'll get 2 more in if we can. NBC News said world's first malaria vaccine program for children starts in Cameroon. I don't know. This one, we may spend a little extra time on this one because some of the things I saw was hard to hear, hard to read.
Okay, well, let's dive in.
Cameroon, which is in Africa, will be the first country to routinely give children a new malaria vaccine as the shots are rolled out in Africa. So that sounds good, right? Malaria is serious. The campaign, due to start Monday, was described by officials as a milestone in the decades-long effort to curb the mosquito spread disease on the continent, which accounts for 95% of the world's malaria deaths. So 95% of the world's malaria deaths are on the African continent. The Central African nation hopes to vaccinate about 250,000 children this year and next year, working with 20 other African countries to help them get the vaccine, and those countries will hopefully immunize more than 6 million children through 2025. So again, you're like, okay, that sounds good. That doesn't seem like a bad thing. In Africa, there are about 250 million cases of parasitic disease each year, including 600,000 deaths mostly in young children. So that's a lot of kids dying. We're going to save their lives. Again, so far, this sounds like a good thing. Cameroon will use the first of two recently approved malaria vaccines known as Muscarix. I think the letter X is a useless letter in the alphabet. I'm just saying, because you can replace it with a K and S, and you don't need
But
the
some
letter
Scrabble
X.
people are really gonna boo you
Oh,
right
that's
now.
right.
You're
There's
gonna get some
lot of,
thumbs down from some Scrabble experts, so you better take that back.
especially if it's triple word. Okay, moving on. I'm just mad because I can't pronounce it. Muscarix. There you go. Muscarix.
Let's go with that.
The World Health Organization endorsed the vaccine 2 years ago, acknowledging that even though it is imperfect, here's the part that I didn't like, even though it is imperfect, its use would still dramatically reduce severe infections and hospitalizations. The GlaxoSmithKline produced shot is only about 30% effective. Requires 4 doses,
Good Lord.
and protection begins to fade after several months.
Starting to
Come on.
sound like another.
The vaccine was tested in Africa and used in pilot programs in 3 countries. GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, has said it can only produce about 15 million doses of Muscarix per year, and some experts believe a second malaria vaccine developed by Oxford University and approved by the World Health Organization in October might be a more practical solution. That vaccine is cheaper, requiring 3 doses, and India's Serum Institute said they could make up to 200 million doses a year.
Is it at least 30% effective?
They don't say if that one's as effective.
Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you, anything that only has a 30% success
Let me say
rate.
this next part too.
Okay.
This is how the article ends. Neither of the malaria vaccines stop transmission. So other tools like bed nets and insecticidal spraying will still be critical. The malaria parasite mostly spreads to people via infected mosquitoes and can cause symptoms including fever, headaches, and chills. You're telling me it's only 30% effective. It fades. You need 4 doses. It fades away after a few months. Then even that 30% goes
Right.
away. And
So then you have to start asking serious questions, right? Because it's never cut and dry. And this is why we really, really encourage patients to dig deep into these topics, to really know your data well. Like, they didn't even share with us what are the side effects. There are always side effects. So what are the side effects of this drug that only has a 30% efficacy and not on transmission, so only on symptoms, right? So it's not going to keep you from getting it. It's hopefully going to reduce your symptoms,
hospitalization,
but
maybe.
only in 30% of the people who take it. Is that how you read it? Is it 30% of the people? Or is it?
I mean, if I said, I'm a chiropractor. If I said, hey, come to me and let me take care of your headaches, or let me take care of your neck pain, and I go, by the way, there's a 30% chance you're gonna get better. And even if you do, it's only gonna last you a couple months.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
Ask questions, because I'm not certain. Like, for me, if I go, okay, it's not going to keep me from doing it, I'm going to have to do all that stuff anyway. And then it's such a small percentage that it's even going to make a difference. I go, okay, well, now tell me, the missing piece is, what are the side effects? And have we actually tested that on developing children? That's my other big issue. Now, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, hey, we're talking about a third world country. There's all of these other things. 100%. I do understand that.
Well, they've been testing it for over a year.
Right. I just, I don't think in a year
they didn't tell us the results of those tests.
Correct. And that's the other concern.
Do you remember we had, there was an article we did a while back. There was a drug that was going to cure some kind of brain thing, but 1 out of 5 people died who took the drug.
Right.
And the FDA had approved it.
Right.
So
this is why we do what we do, because you have to take what you're reading and be able to pull this apart.
I think there's old malaria vaccines, that have been around longer.
I mean, there are,
'Cause
because when people go over,
people who travel, they
they
want to go on a
have to
safari
do,
or something
yeah.
in Cameroon.
So, and I don't know about those. I don't know,
I'm just not going to Africa.
but I really would love a safari sometime.
They have these virtual reality things.
That's where he'll take me.
We'll go on a date
He'll
tonight.
take me to Virginia. They
Are
have
you
a
free?
they have a safari, a
We'll-
car safari.
That's right. That's right. It'll feel like we're really there.
Yes.
Anyways, and the mosquitoes, we won't be afraid of them. Do you think we can do one more?
I think we can. Can you guys stick with us for one more?
One more article. U.S. News. What are the symptoms of an enlarged prostate and how is it treated? Why are they talking about this? Because a very famous person named King Charles III was admitted to a private hospital on January 26th, 2024, which is last week, to undergo a procedure for an enlarged prostate. And this has sparked interest in what is an extremely common condition among older men. The 75-year-old monarch is in good company. About half of men in their 50s have enlarged prostates, and that prevalence climbs to more than 80% of men by the time they reach age 80. So if something happens to 80% of people, do you think maybe it's just a natural thing? I don't know. But it's not comfortable because it's not. It's a common
Thank you.
result. Y'all, I turned 50 this year, so I can talk like that.
Mhm.
My dad, when he turned 80, he said, "I'm 80 now. I can say whatever I want."
And he did.
Yeah. It just got worse when he was 80. So, where are we?
It's a common
it's a
result
common
of
result of
aging.
aging. A doctor named Stephen Nakada, a University of Wisconsin urologist, said this. He said it's like getting gray hair.
Only different.
Everyone's gonna get it.
Sorry.
An enlarged prostate doesn't always cause symptoms, but when it does, they can be annoying. And some men have more trouble than others. So the prostate is part of the reproductive system in men. It makes fluid for semen. It's located below the bladder, and it wraps around the urethra, which is the tube that carries urine and semen out through the you-know-what. It's not cancer. Enlarged prostate is called benign prostatic hyperplasia. Benign meaning not cancer. What causes the prostate to grow isn't completely clear, but it's possibly caused by hormonal changes as men age, which is so interesting because they give men with enlarged prostate testosterone blockers and they actually give them estrogen. And I go, wait a minute, an 80-year-old already has very low testosterone. And
Right.
if you're saying hormonal changes are causing it, but then you're also saying testosterone is causing the prostate to be enlarged, then why doesn't an 18-year-old have an enlarged prostate?
Because they have more testosterone.
They're like swimming in it.
Right.
I was there. I'm
So,
50
like-
now, but I used to be 18.
So they have a great question, but it doesn't really make sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, sometimes we do things backwards. Symptoms of an enlarged prostate can include frequent urination and needing to get up many times in the night to pee, and that's the part I've experienced. A man might have trouble getting, so if you're getting up more than twice a night, you should get it looked at, and it probably is when you're in your 40s and 50s, maybe older, you probably are getting up twice a night as it is. A man might have trouble getting started in the bathroom or dribbling when finished. The inability to completely empty the bladder is also a common symptom. Doctors may first advise patients to stop drinking fluids after dinner. Antihistamines can contribute to these symptoms, as can alcohol and caffeine. So the way alcohol and caffeine can affect bladder function is because of the sympathetic response. So caffeine increases the sympathetic response. In sympathetic response, it's hard to relax the sphincter that allows the bladder to relax or allows the bladder to excrete the urine. and alcohol is a diuretic, which increases urine production. So that's why they're saying alcohol and caffeine. They're not saying alcohol and caffeine will enlarge your prostate.
Correct.
And antihistamines also. They're not saying those will increase your prostate. Medicines are available that relax muscles and allow better flow of urine. Another type of medicine can be used to stop the prostate from growing. Erectile dysfunction drugs can help with urine flow too. There's not strong evidence for herbal remedies such as saw palmetto. But who did the test?
Right.
How many people do we know who like, oh yeah, I had prostate issues. I started taking saw palmetto and it went away. I mean, there's enough anecdotal evidence to say this works.
Yeah, or to at least warrant a really great double-blind study.
And again,
right?
personally, and I can't endorse this, and I'm not telling you guys to take it if you have an enlarged prostate. You need to see a doctor first if you're frequent urinating at night and all of that stuff, dribbling, whatever. Difficulty starting urination, which is called hesitancy. All that stuff can be neurologic. It can be prostate. It can be other things. So don't just start taking saw palmetto. But saw palmetto you can get at any herbal store. It's a supplement. I haven't seen any problems with it. I take it myself, and when I take a special formula of it that has other things in it, like stinging nettle root, which stops the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, which is really neat, which actually raises your testosterone levels, not reduces it. But every doctor, every urologist tells you you need to reduce testosterone if you have an enlarged prostate.
Interesting.
Anyways, that's my opinion on saw palmetto. But this doctor says, I usually tell patients the only thing saw palmetto does is hurt your wallet. That's the same doctor. I don't agree with that, but that's okay. There are various procedures to remove prostate tissue or widen the urethra. Some use the pulse.
I would rather take saw palmetto. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Then-
if the only thing it hurts
widen
is
the urethra.
if the only thing it hurts is your wallet, well, take a chance.
Right.
Let it hurt your wallet a little bit. It's really not that
A
expensive.
couple months to see if it works for you.
It's way less
is-
expensive than these procedures.
Correct. Now, no, it is an herbal supplement, so you do need to look for contraindications.
That's right. If you're on other medications,
yes.
talk to a
And we're
pharmacist.
also a big proponent. Don't just go to a store because, as you know, the FDA does not regulate.
That's
so
right.
a professional grade supplement is always ideal. A
Yeah.
professional grade is not going to be something that you can get online or just
you want
walking
an
into a grocery
independent
store.
company to test it and tell
Yes.
you it has what it says it has. Supplement companies can buy junk from another supplement company, like the leftovers that they throw away, they sell it to these other companies. These other companies will package them into pills and sell them because they know no one's checking. So it probably still has some of those ingredients in it, but it's the junk stuff that's not effective.
Right.
So you want to buy a brand that has been independently checked by another company.
Right.
Look for that. Make sure you're not just buying something off the store shelf. Some use the pulse of a laser beam, microwaves, ultrasound, electric current, or heated water. Another procedure inserts a stent to prop up the prostate and make more room for urine flow. There are also surgical techniques to cut away tissue. All surgeries have potential complications such as bleeding and infections. Prostate surgery can cause urinary or sexual problems. So the
Which
problems
is why you're having.
you're trying to avoid can be caused by the surgery. Some of the less invasive procedures may need to be repeated if symptoms come back. So based on all of that, I'd much rather try an herbal supplement that some people say work, even though one doctor says it doesn't work. I'd still try that first before I do anything else. And there's other things, there's plenty of information on the internet. If you're doing a good job of searching, you're not looking at people who don't have the credibility or the credentials, but there are some people on YouTube who actually give good information. We're on YouTube. So, not all information on YouTube is junk.
And one thing for men to check out too, if you are post prostate surgery and you are struggling with that incontinence leaking, there are solutions. It is never it's never an easy thing to talk about. I think especially, for men. I think women are more used to talking about stuff that's going on down there because we have babies. We have to do all that stuff all the time. Men, I think, tend to be a little more conservative in those conversations.
I couldn't even
But
say the word.
I know.
Remember?
I saw that.
I called it the you know what.
Yes, I saw that. We all saw that. So one thing that I would say is do some research. There's some technology that came out, I think 2017, 2018 timeframe called EMSALA, EMSELLA. EMSALA was created by a PT device company called BTL. They're from overseas. But they're just a brilliant company that has some really great technology. And they do have the EMSALA technology, which does allow you to basically give that pelvic floor a really rigorous workout, which can help to strengthen and lift the pelvic floor, which can reduce the incontinence that they're experiencing.
This device is actually FDA approved for treatment of incontinence.
It is.
And it has had amazing results in a short period of time without surgery, without drugs.
Yeah. So if that's something that you'd like to get more information on, don't hesitate to reach out. We actually have an EMSALA unit at one of our clinics here in Frederick. There are, other places all over the country that have EMSALA, but do some research. There's lots of great information on our website and all over the internet. But 2 treatments a week, 28 minutes, 2 times a week for 3 weeks can really help to resolve some of those incontinence symptoms. So if that's something you're tired of dealing with, reach out and we're happy to set up a time to do a consultation and see if it's a good fit for you.
Good show.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks to everybody for joining us. I'm saying everything backwards today.
You have some tongue tie stuff going on.
Yeah, it's okay. That's why we'll save this next article for later. This one's pretty powerful. So make sure you tune in next week. We are going to talk about memory loss, brain shrinkage, and how stress causes those things. So make sure you're here.
Yeah.
Make sure you listen to that. I'm going to give you some great information. Listen, I wrote the book on stress, so this is what my expertise is in, and I've been saying this all along, so hopefully you'll tune in and listen. Please share the podcast, and thank you to all of you who have been joining us for every single one of these 30-something episodes. We're so grateful. We're going to keep going if you want us to keep going. So take care, bless you, and we'll see you soon.
See you next time.